Well, it's here. Time to keep the tradition alive of the October review of the new Joe Bonamassa signature. Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. So what did Joe and Epiphone cook up this year? From his personal collection, he has a 1955 Gibson Les Paul that has a very unusual finish. It's called Copper Iridescent, and it was developed for the 1955 NAMM show. And apparently there's a handful of original examples out there. If I remember his story correctly, he has two. He knows of at least one other one. But every year, he and Epiphone work together to release a new model in October that just celebrates a cool guitar in his collection, and people dig this stuff. I first started documenting the series in 2020, but according to Joe's website, it at least goes back to 2014, but let's do a quick model recap here. 2014, it was a Pelham Blue Les Paul at $699. 2015 saw that again, but in an Inverness green finish with a Bigsby slapped on it, with the price increased to $799. 2016, you saw a cool Firebird 1 in the Treasure series for $799, and then following that up in 2017 was the famous Amos Flying V for $899. A release so popular this year in 2024, they decided to do a $20,000 Gibson Custom Collector's Edition remake of that guitar. And then in 2018, there was an ES355 in an ebony finish for $999. You see the trend of these things getting more expensive? Well, the next year they bucked that trend with a 1960 Norm Burst for $699. But then starting for the 2020 model, a very cool Black Beauty Les Paul Custom with Epiphone style tuners. I know that doesn't sound cool, but look at them, they are cool. That was at $799. Then in 2021, there was the 59 Lazarus at $899. But then here's the thing, 2022. They come out with this 62 ES335. Didn't really get people that excited, but it had Gibson pickups in it, so it was $1,300. Keep in mind, Lazarus also had Gibson pickups in it. 2023, we saw the 63 SG Custom, which don't get me wrong, that was a gorgeous guitar, but at $1,400, it was kind of expensive. But we jumped from that $700 to $900 range quickly to doubling that, and it started to turn people off from this series. So seemingly by Joe's request, they decided to spec this release down a little bit so it's not as expensive. These are retailing for $849, which is not too bad. But it does cost you some premium features. Like you can see this is a multi-piece neck. You've got a scarf join there and right here on the headstock. So gone are the one-piece necks. I like the Kalamazoo Epiphone headstock, so that's not really a downside in my opinion. And then unfortunately no Gibson P90s in here, just regular Epiphones. And these are not being limited to any particular production number. In fact, it wouldn't surprise me if they leave these in production longer than some of these other ones since they got it at such an attractive price. However, if you need limited edition in your life, if you go to Joe Bonamassa's website, he always has a vanity model that's exclusive there for $100 more, and that one is published to only 300 being made, but the fretboard's different. It's got Joe Bonamassa's signature on it. And let's just say, I got lucky being able to pick this one up. They are currently sold out till mid-February. So to say these were popular was an understatement, or maybe the Chinese factories just had a hard time producing enough. But there are pre-orders out there if you don't mind waiting. But first impressions, it's got a good weight to it. Not too heavy, not too light. The color, I wouldn't say it's my favorite. It's kind of a muddy brown, almost a little bit of cherry flavoring to it. I was reading on the website that this is apparently a light cherry back, and I just saw like a dark natural in the stock photography, but in person, yes, it definitely is a little bit more of a cherry color as opposed to like a dark back. But I'd say it feels pretty nice. The neck profile, it's rounded without being too much. That's probably why they called it a 59. It's those in-betweeners. And I've got to say, I like the case that these come with. I was surprised it even had a case. It's got your usual Bonamassa Nerdville stuff, Epiphone branding, and something in Italian over here. And it's the 3 latches on the front with one back here. I do want to make mention that I don't think this Tolex is very sturdy because unfortunately, right out of the box, there was already a chip in mine. But I swear they've changed the interior color. It's not quite as in-your-face hot pink. It's been darkened just a tad. And I really like it because it almost takes it slightly closer to purple and it matches really well with this copper iridescent finish. But do we get any fancy case candy? Oh wow, we do. Most Epiphones don't get anything. But we do have a little Joe Bonamassa COA and an official product sticker right here, along with our serial number. That's a nice touch. However, rather than the Epiphone version, I wish he would have took a picture with the original. Because I can see the Epiphone right here. I've got the guitar. guitar. But other than that, it's just your regular stickers and manuals, truss rod tool, case key, silica packets, and for historical preservation, the original price tag, and the sliced off box tag. Based on first impressions only, I would say this seems like a buy to me. Case, very nicely spec guitar. I don't care if you like Joe or not, he is a signature famous artist, so you do have a small premium associated with that. But most importantly, I mean, it doesn't have Joe's name anywhere on it. It's a cool color, and it's P90 pickups. It's the first time he threw them on his signature guitars, and you can't always get these out of Epiphones, so it's carved its own little area out in the Epiphone market. There's only one thing I'm seeing that's really bothering me, but let's go ahead and throw it onto the workbench to talk more about that. Let's get right into the thing that I don't like. The pickup routes are too large. Even when they're properly installed, just look at how big of a gap that is. Is that going to affect playability? Not necessarily, but it's on both sides. This caught my attention straight out of the box. If you like thicker picks, Jazz 3s fit in there very nicely as a spare. So depending on who you are, that could be a nice hidden bonus feature. Or who knows, maybe Joe's original was over-routed and it's a spec they're recreating. I haven't actually seen his in-depth enough to know. As far as the pickup itself, it's the Epiphone P90 Pro set, which you can find in like the Les Paul Special, and I'm a big fan of those Epiphones. But this was an interesting way that they mounted it to the cavity. So it's your regular 2 screws that go through these 2 center holes to secure it to the guitar. But they have a foam block as well as springs, but the foam block itself is probably really just there to help them install the springs and make installation easier. But we can temporarily peel that up to see our long neck tenon construction. So that's a nice spec that these have. And the bridge pickup, it's just more of the same, and foam block and springs. But they do cover up your QR code and other serial number things with that, and I would peel it up to show you, but it looks like not all of it's actually going to come, so it would just be for nothing. But we can see through to our maple top over here, then our bare mahogany body right down here. But readings within the circuit, we get about 7.8 in the bridge, slightly less in the neck at 778, and they play together at 389. Bridge and tailpiece time, it vaguely looks like an ABR1, but it's just your regular Epiphone lock tone series. Metric style in your posts, with a bushing in the body, and full weight lock tone Epiphone tailpiece. But did you notice this earlier? This color comes with special knobs. It matches the finish, essentially. It's a slightly metallic brown knob. Not as cool as the Epiphone tuners, but still something else that gives this a little bit of extra pizzazz. If one of these breaks in shipping or something, good luck replacing it. But that is unique to see metallic brown on the backside here. And we get the thumb bleeders. Very cool. But here's what it looks like with the pickguard removed. I'm a big fan of the cream plastics and think this looks good too, but you know, pickguard off, kind of attractive on this model. Really helps show off the top carve that they have on this. Pickguard itself is like obnoxiously thick, in a good way. But now let's take a second to appreciate this finish on the workbench lighting. I don't know if I necessarily see the gold that Joe's talking about, but maybe the Epiphone finish didn't necessarily pull that off too well. Think gold top, but kind of a rusty brown finish, and you're very close to what this is. As far as nitty-gritty detailed QC analysis, here's a couple of nitpicks. This is pretty common to see where the finish runs just a little bit over the neck's binding and over in this area. You can also see in the cutaway where it covers over a little bit too much of the binding, more than it's intended to. And along similar lines, if you look right here, maybe some glue seeped out or they over-scraped the binding or whatever they do, but you don't actually have a colored stain right here on the neck. Besides that, I didn't really notice anything, but being a poly finish, it's not as prone to weird stuff going on. Interesting side profile shot here, because it's the color top with just the slight cherry stained back. But we can move on from the maple top and mahogany body to our mahogany neck with Indian laurel fretboard. We're back down to the acrylic trapezoid inlays, but hey, that's okay. Not even the original 59s have true mother of pearl. And as far as laurel goes, this one has a really good color to it, some cool streakiness. Even after conditioning, it didn't really darken up too much. But the reddish hue works perfect with our kind of reddish brown finish. Got a 24 3/4 inch scale with 12-inch fretboard radius, and I measured the nut at 1.7 inches, increasing to 211. And 0.89 first fret neck depth, and 0.97 by the 12th, but we'll take it at the 10th, which is about 0.95. It's a nice all-around neck profile. I don't see anybody having problems with this one. It's rounded C without being too slim or too fat. But now we're headstock. We already talked about the stylizing of it, but you get your Les Paul model here. And the logo is not a decal, it actually is a perloid material. But from far away, it is kind of hard to tell. And it's got our 3-screw truss rod cover, that is 2-ply, then our truss rod is in there. Overall QC of the neck, there were a few small impressions on the fretboard, another one right here, and a small scratch there. Overall though, not too bad on this example, and I do have one compliment. I've taken enough of these Epiphones apart to know these bottom 2 screws always get sunk crooked into the guitar, and it causes them to strip out really quick. These ones were straight, surprisingly. Good job, Epiphone. As far as how the frets feel to play, it's your typical scratchiness from Epiphone. You can polish them up a little bit more, so I'd call that the average Epiphone experience there. But now we can move on to the backside. How many pieces is the body? This particular example is 2 pieces. There's a center seam running down here. However, I would say they matched it up pretty decently. And you do indeed have thin binding in the cutaway. Running along the rest of the side, you can see the output jack on the side, large strap button, and we'll look along here just for fun. Some cool wood grain on that edge. And now our pickup cavities. Got some mysterious markings along the ridge. And here's what we're doing. So we got the Mallory capacitors with CTS 500K pots. So that's pretty good. I don't think you'll have to upgrade anything. It's not technically a quick connect. Everything is soldered to the pots and it's not a PCB. However, the pickups do have a quick connection right here. So they must pre-wire all these assemblies, put them in the guitar, and then they can just quickly connect and they don't have to worry with soldering. So if you don't like these Epiphone pickups, you could try a different quick connect Epiphone, or you can just solder new pickups to it, whatever you do want. You've got the good stuff. The back plates they used are brown, and here's a look at our toggle switch. Moving on from our body to the neck. Now that I've had some time to digest this neck profile, it's great because a lot of these Epiphones kind of have that D-shaped neck where they feel a bit too wide. This does not have that in the slightest. It really does feel like a nice 59 neck profile. That's going to be a selling feature to some people. But whether or not you care about the 2 scarf joints, I will leave that up to you. But it's technically crafted out of 3 different pieces. And our tuners read Epiphone Deluxe. And there is a serial number on the back dating it to 2024. All said and done, what does copper iridescent weigh? Not bad at all. 8 pounds, ½ ounce. Let's go ahead and hear how these P90 pickups sound. First impressions, nothing wrong with those pickups. Neck is nice and full. Bridge, spanky. And they play nicely together. Now we'll throw on a bit of dirt. So what are my final thoughts on the 2024 Joe Bonamassa? I like this one. I like it way better than our 2 previous years. And nothing against those. They had some really high-end custom buckers in them, so in a roundabout way, they also cost the same. You just had the mandatory premium upgrades. So I think it was a very smart decision of them to strip it of all that, because not everybody really cares about that whole one-piece neck on an Epiphone and having full-on Gibson electronics, but we still got the CTS pots. But most importantly, it's the neck profile. That's why you want this. It's that perfect middle ground with a nice C shape. That is my favorite thing about this guitar, because I'll be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of the color. It's cool in a historic context, right? So I'm glad I got to document it. But this thing plays very well. But a regular Epiphone 50 standard doesn't currently come in P90, so again, it's filling a whole new gap. And how much more expensive is this signature model from the regular? The regular ones are currently $699, so you got about $100 for the case, and then you got about $50 for the artist specs. I think that's fair, all things considered. So hopefully this video helps you make an informed decision, or it just tides you over until your February pre-orders come in. But if you're interested in being the next owner of this particular one, you can find it for sale on my website, troglysguitarshow.com. Thank you for watching, and we'll catch you guys tomorrow on the next one. Take care.